I give away free Steam games with every major video I do, and here's who won this week. The games available to receive are listed below. To enter, just leave a comment and have contact information on your profile. And now, on with the video. I'm playing something almost every week, and sometimes I want to talk about it and give you a vertical slice. So stick with me for some lightning reviews. This week, on the chopping block. This week I've been playing my new Steam Deck. I acquired it in celebration of recently paying off my car loan, and I knew that it would be fairly easy to eat the expense if I simply maintained the same diligent monetary decisions that I'd been following thus far. Personal finances aside, I wanted to get a Steam Deck for a few reasons. First and foremost, I have an expansive Steam library, and it would be nice to be able to access many of those games in a more flexible scenario than sitting at my PC. Secondly, and relatedly, I don't know if this is something that a lot of other people share the opinion of, but I find it difficult to fully relax when I'm playing games at my PC. This could be because I was raised on consoles and devoted to handhelds when I was younger, but I find that if I want to play a game to relax, I find an easier time doing so in a comfy chair with an easily mappable controller in my hand. A PC is also frequently used as my workstation, so I have that mental association, and the games that I've spent the most time on PC with are the ones that I usually have a fair degree of focus when I'm playing. I'm not saying I've never relaxed when playing PC games, it's just not my natural default. Finally, I have a small handful of selected games that I'm generating a bit of an ultimate playthrough bucket list, or to rephrase, I'm endeavoring to 100% certain games. The ease of use of PC on Steam with cloud saves and other such quality of life features are nice, but the amount of grinding and time spent ultimately completing these runs would necessitate a time devotion that I would normally want to have the aforementioned couch or cozy spot set up that I associate with consoles or handhelds. I'd consider doing such playthroughs on my Switch or PS5, but I'm lukewarm to the notion of locking those to a single system. And the flexibility of PC is very inviting as an alternative. By the way, of the brief research I did to compare the other systems, I also saw that the deck ranged from 2 to 4 times as more powerful than the Switch. With all this in mind, a Steam Deck seemed like a good option. Although, as a brief side note, I'd like to point out that the week that I dropped the scratch to pay for a brand new unit, Steam announced a couple days later that they are doing a refurbished system at a 20% discount. Just my luck, I suppose, but I digress. One thing I was worried about was with early news stories that Steam Decks were very stupidly packaged. Not that they didn't have enough protection or packing material, but that they actually printed what the item was on the box, making for a very easy and lucrative porch pirate parcel. I'm pleased to say that that's not still the case. Although there are an Easter egg or two on the box that might give it away for some of those that are more aware of Valve's games in general. After the usual initiation and login procedures, I was very impressed with my deck. The device is fairly light but feels sturdy. The system is decently fast, and the user interface is rather straightforward for those already familiar with the Steam as a PC platform. Now, for a few details about my thought processes and attitudes as a gamer, I can be described as somewhat of a layman. I'm not a frame rate snob, bleeding edge graphics aren't important to me, I'm not intimately familiar with the implications of certain spec numbers, and I don't tend to hold a favorable attitude towards one platform over another. I also believe that the most important element of a platform is not necessarily the hardware itself, but the games. So long as the games on a respective platform are good and the hardware can handle them, then I believe that's where a system can truly shine. Now, while the Steam Deck has no shortage of titles, it's worth noting that not every game on Steam is currently playable on the system. That's not saying it can't handle the heavier stuff. I briefly installed Control to test that out for a while, and while the frame rate was lower, it held steady. I also gave it a test run with Vampire Survivors, which can get surprisingly choppy given the pixelated graphical style, but I suppose with the different particle effects and calculations going on at once, I shouldn't be terribly surprised. Finally, I decided to run a brief experiment with Pizza Tower to see if I'd have any better luck with the art style not hurting my eyes. Unfortunately, not the case. Nonetheless, the system showed that it is quite capable with anything that I would typically be willing to throw at it. I mean, I also haven't gotten Baldur's Gate 3 yet, a very new game with astounding levels of content and very respectable graphics, but according to the Steam page, it is fully supported by the deck. Now, if you're considering a deck of your own with everything I'm saying, bear a few things in mind. There are 3 models available at the time of writing: a 64GB version at $400, a 256GB version at $530, and a 512GB version at $650. Simply based off storage, I would recommend the 256 model. I mean, I filled up the space just installing games to test the system, and given the modern size of titles, some beefier games may require you to have nothing else on the system. Fortunately, you can expand the memory through a typical micro SD card. The etched glass of the most premium version can be supplanted by some screen protectors that you can get on Amazon for about $10. Also, I got a dock accessory that a friend of mine recommended for half the price of the official Steam branded one. This allowed me to do a limited degree of video capture on the menus and interface. However, when I attempted to directly capture gameplay footage, there seemed to be some manner of lock on the video feed, hence the heavy use of my camera. As for the biggest downsides that I personally experienced, the system can get rather warm while running certain titles, and the battery life, while respectable given the grade of games that it is capable of running, in my experience lasted 2 to 3 hours. Definitely enough time to have some portable PC gaming, but you will need to be in range of an outlet every so often. While the necessity of a Steam Deck is fairly arguable in the grand scheme of gaming overall, I can say that my experience with it thus far is satisfying in the very least. I mean, the night before I started writing this script, I climbed into bed and picked up my Steam Deck to mess around with it and play a few games at around 10:30, expecting to wind down by 11. The next time I looked at a clock, it was 1 in the morning. It's somewhat expensive, the battery life can be a bit short depending on the game you're running, and not every game on the platform is technically supported, but in my short window, I believe I may have found a preferred method when I'm just looking to chill. And yes, for the memes, I did spend 5 minutes playing Team Fortress 2 on the deck, although I was only able to do anything successfully as a demo night. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna step away from hardware and get back to software reviews. Hey, look at that, it's the end of the video. Don't forget to subscribe, and remember that commenting can actually win you a free prize. So until next time, this is Gheeotine saying thanks for watching and keep your head on your shoulders.
Alright, time for hentai games in airplane mode.